The first round of the playoffs are officially over, and honestly, I will say this was an entertaining round. I think typically, in my experience, I feel like first round matchups are very predictable, and there were a few series that were very one sided, but we definitely got treated to two classics, I would say, in my opinion, at least, along with other like very close series. So we're just gonna go through. We'll go through each series. I will say we won't have a lot to comment on some of them, just especially like the one-sided ones. But we want to get into just our reactions to the first round as well as our predictions for the second round. So, all right. So to start with, Thunder Grizzlies, and I believe we did record our predictions on that episode where Alexi was absent. So just a little footnote in there. But I had the Thunder going over. Dre, you had the Grizzlies going over. Thunder swept the Grizzlies. It was not even close. Ja dealt with some injuries and it's not close at all. But yeah, any comments?
Not much here. Honestly, I was just trying to switch it up. I was hoping for Ja to maybe have an all-time performance. Didn't happen. Yeah, not much happened eventful here. And some of the games, I guess, were interesting. There was some I guess, blowouts and historical blowouts and some comebacks and stuff like that. But overall, what was supposed to happen happened, and the Thunder moving on. Shea just over-farming whatever.
Not sure what this means for Ja Morant's future. I know we discussed that a little bit, but we'll see what the offseason holds. Next series, Nuggets and Clippers, man. Dre, your Clippers went to 7 games and the Nuggets advanced. Any reactions? Any thoughts? I just want to give you the
floor. Here's the thing. Going into this series, when we actually did our predictions, you predicted the Clippers to win. I predicted Nuggets in 7, I believe. And my thing was, I was hoping, obviously, the Clippers would win. But I thought if I predict against them, I will not be jinxing them. And either way, either I get what I wanted or I get the prediction right. And, I got the prediction right. We'll take those. But the thing is with the Clippers is you can never get your hopes up. Like at least for me as a Clippers fan, I never get my hopes up. I've learned my lesson year after year after year, and even seeing how we're playing in the series, I was like, just for like little seconds here and there, I was like, Kawhi's actually, anytime Kawhi is fit, you can still see realistically he's one of the best players in the league, two-way especially, and I've seen now Kawhi's putting it together, healthy, Harden's doing his thing. Howell doing his thing, Zubac is doing his thing. I was like, okay, we might have a little something here. And we were just going back and forth. It was a great series, honestly. Like the Clippers Nuggets is a sneak. People talk about Lakers Nuggets, but Clippers Nuggets have had some good matchups over the years as well. But they usually get the best of us. So as always, they did it as well. But going into Game 7, I just knew. Like I honestly just knew. The reason why I predicted Nuggets in 7 is we don't have Game 7 in us, like Kawhi does in general, but James Harden, no matter how many years pass, there's something to be said for someone who doesn't show up in that moment. And I hate to dog on him because I like James Harden as a player, and it was cool having him being able to follow the league while he was an active player, and especially when he was on his scoring tirade with the Rockets, because I feel like that's something you don't really get to see. Like I didn't really grow up on like that era of Kobe. Like I saw like late 2000s Kobe, who was still obviously one of the best players in the league, but like it wasn't like 81 Kobe, or like obviously I didn't grow up on Jordan. So it was cool seeing a player who was constantly putting up like those kind of numbers. But his history of not showing up is just continuing to show itself. And there's a reason why he's going to retire without a ring. It just is what it is. He's not going to get it. I don't ever see it happening. And if he retires with the Clippers, that means the Clippers are not winning a ring until he retires, at least, because this guy just doesn't show up when we need him to. And I'm tired of getting baited by him. That's why, the prediction played out exactly as I thought it would.
Nah, I hear you. I will say it frustrates me when a player just can't shake the narrative. And in James Harden's case, it's so tough because he has had such a legendary career. Recently, I was watching highlights from that 2018 series between the Rockets and the Warriors, and this was the KD Warriors, so they were loaded. And Max Kellerman would always talk about, whoa, it took like a Chris Paul injury and like a historically terrible shooting night, like from the Rockets to drop that series, and it just makes me think, like, man, like this man has gotten so close so many times. He made it to the finals when he was on the Thunder back in the day against LeBron, and so it's just tough to see somebody not be able to shake the narrative, and he's had an illustrious career, but it just looks like he won't get that ring, so it does hurt to see. But the series itself was definitely a treat to watch. There was that one game where it really came down to the wire, and so Aaron Gordon shot like this, like I think it was off a Jokic miss, and he ended up like catching it and like just dunking it in. I believe that was game 5, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm not sure exactly which game it was.
I think game 6,
but
maybe.
Was it game 6?
Either 5 or 6.
Oh, it looks like it was game 4.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah. So pretty early on in the series, and at that point, the Clippers were up 2-1, and so you have moments like that where like one shot, can really shift the momentum of the series. Like if the Clippers won that, they would have been up 3-1. Like if Aaron Gordon does not catch Jokic's miss, Clippers are up 3-1 and likely take the whole series. James Harden doesn't get the playoff, like I guess label, or like the doesn't get the label that he disappears in the playoffs. So it's just crazy to see how small the margin can really be. But it does frustrate me for the Clippers, for Harden, and for Kawhi, because I do want to see Harden and Kawhi do well. They are some of my favorite players, so that is a little tough to watch. But moving on to the Lakers and the Wolves, and I actually had the Lakers taking this, and I believe you had the Wolves going over, and lo and behold, Wolves won it in 5 games. The whole Lakers in 5, man. It ended up being Wolves in 5, and as we saw, Anthony Edwards had his little victory lap around Crypto.com Arena. He's been really talking the talk on social media, all over the press, and so he's just really been feeling himself. So any thoughts or comments on that series?
Yeah, I mean, this one pretty much played out how I thought it would. I don't know if I said 5 games exactly, but I think, or maybe I did, because we kind of did that whole, tried to come up with the whole Wolves scheme for the in 5 thing. But the thing is with the Lakers is that they were never built to win a ring this year. And I think because they had such a good end to the season, people started to dream, like, I think just because the Lakers, people love the narrative. So like they just start to dream like, oh, Reeves is putting it together. Luka getting back to game fitness, although, we can talk about that, but still for his level, it's still whatever. It's still good enough. And LeBron came back from his injury. These 3 cooking together. It's something. But once the trade happened, when we talked about the trade back in whenever it was, January, we said on that podcast that no matter, you can have LeBron and Luka, and that's an amazing duo, but the team construction isn't there. Like the big man isn't there, and they tried to go and get the guy out of Charlotte. I forget his name. When they tried to trade Connect for him, and then that one fell through. Mark Williams, yeah, thank you. And that one fell through, and as soon as that fell through, for me the season was over. No matter how well they ended up going to become the 3 seed, I believe, which was impressive, but that's regular season basketball. Playoffs is a completely different animal, and especially getting the Wolves as a matchup with Rudy Gobert, it was never in the cards for me for them to win it. It's a shame. I think Reeves, he kind of didn't show up in the way I think people thought he might as like a third option in this series. LeBron, did what he does. Luka did what he does, but Ant really showed himself as, that guy. I said before the series I was a little disappointed that Ant was becoming more of a, like, falling in love with the three type player versus attacking the rim. But we still got to see that both elements of that game is there. And I think especially going against a small ball Lakers team, him attacking the rim is what I really wanted to see. And I was glad to see that you still had that element of his game, that he isn't too obsessed with the three. But yeah, I'm curious to see where this goes going into next year, because the Lakers reconstructing the team, whether or not LeBron continues to play, which I'm sure he will, just getting build the narrative, or will I, won't I, but I'm sure he will. So I'm curious to see where it goes next year, especially with JJ as the coach, because I kind of feel bad for him. I feel like he kind of got stitched up with this trade. Not that it's a bad trade in the future. If he goes on to be the Lakers coach for the next 10 years, then I'm sure he'll have a lot of success with Luka. But for this season and the narrative, people are by him first time coach. There's only so much you can really do with this tactical matchup. So yeah, I think it kind of played out how I thought it would. But you didn't get your dream Lakers Warriors match. Shame on you.
Yeah, man, and it's just tough to see because I really did think the Lakers had enough offensive firepower to make it past the Wolves. I mean, you have LeBron, you have Luka, and it looks like LeBron actually took a bit of a step back. It looks like he regressed just a little bit in this series, didn't show up quite how we are used to seeing him show up, and obviously that goes to his age can be pointed out.
Father Time,
the culprit. Yeah, Father Time is undefeated, and it just sucks because it was a little bit of a tough watch because the Wolves really didn't have their way, and I think they put themselves in a very interesting position. And we'll get into our predictions for their next matchup, but I'm excited to see how this young team continues to show out. But yeah, the next series that we have, Hits and the Warriors, and this was the 2 seed versus the 7 seed, and it went to 7 games. Warriors ended up taking Game 7 convincingly, winning 103-89. And that was actually yesterday. So also had a legendary performance from Buddy Hield, who actually was torching the Knicks in that Sixers-Knicks playoff series last year. So interesting to see a player like Hield, who is relatively on the younger side, contributing to a competitive team. And we got to see Steph take down the young dogs, Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Fred VanVleet, Ahmed Thompson. Like those guys, they really did not seem. I thought they would give the Warriors a rough time, and it looks like they did, but clearly not enough to beat the very experienced Golden State Warriors. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we both predicted Warriors win here. I'm not sure we thought it'd go as far as 7, so fair play to the Rockets for even pushing such an experienced team that far. I think that shows a lot of promise for them. I think in the upcoming years, I never thought they would go super far this year, but to get a 7-game series in your first year really even being a top team, I think that's really important. I think that can put them maybe even ahead of schedule. Like, whereas I would have thought, okay, maybe in 2-3 years they'll start to peak. Getting that experience now, I think is really important. And maybe even next year we could see them start to see the fruits of that a little earlier than I thought. But in terms of just the Game 7, I don't want to hear nothing about no Steph Curry, greatest point guard of all time, Steph Curry's top 10, Steph Curry, whatever. I think even Shaq last week said Steph Curry's in the GOAT conversation. Nonsense, bro. I don't want to hear any of that. That's ridiculous. This dude had like 3 points in the first half of Game 7. and he was just getting garbage time points at the end. I honestly do not want to hear that. It's so fraudulent. He literally got carried by Buddy Hield in the game 7. He got carried by Iguodala years ago. He got carried by KD years ago. I don't want to hear that. So don't start building this Steph Curry narrative, because you think I'm hating on Tatum and you think I hate on Bron, y'all gonna see a real hater come out. And I don't even hate Curry, but there's just levels to this game. And to me, Steph, he's not that guy. But anyway, I also want to talk about a little bit, and we won't have to, maybe this is a conversation for another day in terms of actually getting into it. But in terms of the big man and the depth of the big man in the NBA, although I will say, yeah.
Time out. Can I just say something about the Curry comment? Like, I was waiting for a pause in there, but holy, that is utter disrespect, man. That's crazy. Do you think you don't think he's the greatest point guard of all time?
No.
You have Magic? What do you have?
Easily Magic. But to me,
Okay.
Magic's top 5. Steph's not even
Magic.
top 10.
Magic isn't a bad take, but saying that Curry isn't in the GOAT conversation, I think that's insane.
Wait. Specify GOAT point guard or GOAT period?
No, I'm saying he's in the GOAT period conversation. I don't think he is the GOAT.
Whoa.
Like, I think you can make a case. That he's in the top 10.
Top 10 isn't GOAT conversation.
Yeah, it is, because you're.
No, it's not.
Are you saying GOAT conversation as in like the? What do you?
As in number 1.
Yeah. But like, obviously, like Kobe's in the GOAT conversation. He doesn't.
No, he's not.
You don't think he is? You think it's just strictly LeBron Jordan?
I think it's barely LeBron Jordan, but I think if you're gonna actually have the conversation, it's LeBron, Jordan, maybe you throw in Kareem. I think GOAT conversation, I think there's levels. Even to a top 10, I think there's levels to a top 10. There's like people like to do it as like a inner circle and then the inner circle, whatever. You're trying to do like a visual representation. Every person in my top 10 is not a GOAT like contender. Like for like Shaq, for example, is not. I don't think he's a GOAT contender. He may be best in his position. That's another conversation. He's not a GOAT contender. Like, even in my top 5, Magic's not a GOAT contender. Bird's not a GOAT contender. But they're both top 5 for me. Like, I think there's levels to that conversation. And I think Curry is not even near the conversation. Like, to be in the conversation, you have to have a realistic argument for them to be the GOAT. It's not just like, oh, he's in the atmosphere of these great players. It's like, can you argue realistically that Curry is the GOAT over these people in the conversation? And there's no argument for me in that sense. There's literally none.
I mean, he did beat LeBron in the tournaments, but
LeBron's not the GOAT. He did it off of Iguodala and KD's back. So really, he's not the GOAT. He didn't get a Finals MVP until 2021 or whatever year that was.
But that's like the same thing as like the Iguodala Finals MVP. Like,
hey, but Curry, if you're that guy, make it undeniable that you're the Finals MVP. The fact that Iguodala can even take that shows you weren't that guy. Either way, if you're not gonna have LeBron as the GOAT, and I don't, because of like say the Dallas series, strictly off of being the face of losing a 3-1 lead, you cannot be the GOAT. You literally cannot be the GOAT. That alone, if people are gonna discredit LeBron off the Mavericks, which I do, and that's part of why LeBron can never be the GOAT for me. Curry losing 3-1 to the guy I don't even have as the GOAT, you can't even sniff the conversation. You can't, like, he's struggling to hit top 10 for me. So GOAT is like a far cry. That 3-1 is crazy.
Okay.
We can have this whole debate if you want to another time.
I think we're closer in this debate than I originally thought we were. Like, I agree with a lot of the points you're saying, but I still think the Curry hate is a little bit unwarranted. But that's
it sounds like hate, but I'm just speaking facts. It sounds like hate, but if you really, because other than what I'm saying, he's had an amazing career, of course. But if you actually want to break down the nitty gritty of the top, then it's going to sound like hate because he's not the top. If that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Well, on that note, you were gonna say something about the big men.
This is a quick one. This maybe is another conversation for another day too. But I feel like we just want to talk about the death of the big man in the NBA. Although I'd say the best players are still maybe some of the big men because there's so little competition down low. But seeing like Şengün is supposed to be the up and coming big man, freaking airballing post fades over Draymond Green, who's like 6'7". Like, I know he's supposed to be like a defensive player of the year, former defensive player of the year, and all that, but like come on, bro. What's going on? We need more like actual dominant big men in this league because that really showed the levels. Like, I'm not trying to be some kind of boomer that said basketball back in the day was better, but I do miss like having those levels to the game. Like Şengün, if you're really a dominant big man, you should be going crazy on this Warriors team. But that's that.
Okay, fair. Yeah, it is crazy to see how a 6'7" center can dominate the way Draymond does on the defensive side. So, props to him, I guess. But yeah, I also did expect a little bit more from Şengün. He shows out in the regular season. Maybe it's just an experience thing, but for sure, time will tell. It's a young team. They took the Warriors to 7 games, so very least I do give them that credit. But anyways, moving on to the Eastern Conference, we have the Cavs and the Heat. We both had the Cavs winning, and Cavs actually swept the Heat. So, any comments on that?
Nothing there. Pretty standard, pretty expected. I don't remember if I even had the Heat making it out of the play-in. So to me, it was never a conversation about this first round.
Yeah, I think you may have had the Hawks in there.
Yeah, which that was blasphemous too. But either way, I thought the Cavs would sweep whoever came out.
For sure. Interesting. Cool. All right, now Pacers Bucks. It's interesting because I had previously said this has kind of been a little bit of a rivalry brewing. I think this series continues to prove that. We saw at the end of Game 5, Pacers took in 5 games. At the end of Game 5, Giannis had a confrontation with Tyrese Halliburton's father on the court, which became its own conversation on whether or not fans, especially, or even if they are like family members of players, like if they should even be allowed on the court post game, which I thought was interesting. But saw that there was some frustration brewing and clearly some personal comments being made after that matchup. And I think the elephant in the room is now Giannis's future in Milwaukee, now that they have failed to really make any real playoff noise since 2021. So just a lot really going on in that series. Quietly, I think will be one of the most impactful series of this season. So any comments or thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I think we both had the Bucks coming out of that series. I think we were hoping for a healthy Dame and seeing like a historic maybe series from Giannis. And to be fair, Giannis was still balling. Like Giannis is Giannis. He's always going to be Giannis. And I think his game has learned to translate to the playoffs. But there's only so much you can do when your team kind of falls apart in that way. And honestly, I don't even know if we can call Pacers Bucks a real rivalry. I know we're just saying it's starting to become a rivalry, but Pacers are just whooping them. Like every time they really meet up, the Pacers are just cooking them. So like, I feel like maybe because of the narratives that are coming around it makes it feel like it's a rivalry, but the actual results, especially if you're gonna basically gentlemen sweep them, then you're kind of making it look not that competitive. I think the timing of the window, because the Pacers are ascending as this Bucks window has like rapidly started to close. So I think the timing is kind of unfortunate for the Bucks for this to be a proper back and forth. And I think Dame now is out. I don't know if you know exactly how long. Maybe almost all of next year or something. Like something crazy.
I it's your Achilles, man. It's you really got to start being real about yourself. And Dame has been in the league for about 12, 13 years, so he's done his time. But I really hope this isn't the end. Who knows? I really don't know how long this will take for him to heal, because there has been, like, such progress made on the medicinal side of things, and so who knows? I remember KD, who I think was probably like the last superstar to go through this injury, took somewhere around like a little bit over a year to heal, right? Or definitely was like a long time. Like, don't expect Dame to be open or to be available by opening day or opening week of the upcoming season. So wishing him a speedy recovery for sure, but it is tough to see a legend like that go down with quite an injury. So we'll see what happens there.
And Dame's turning 35 in July, I think, which is like, it's rough. It's rough. Because Clay, I think, is 35, about there as well. But he had the back-to-back ACL Achilles, which is crazy. That was when he was like 30, probably 30 or 29. Like, even then, your body can still put in that work. And Clay's recovery was amazing in itself, but that's 5 years ago at this point. Like, Dame getting that now in his career is, I don't know. Like you said, I would hate to see him retire off of this, but realistically, we're looking at him coming back probably when he's 36, turning 36 soon. Then I know players are playing later and later, but then people are not always exactly 100% themselves coming off of that. Do you want to see a diminished Dame playing into his late 30s? I don't know. It's kind of tough. But as for the Bucks and Giannis, I love that Giannis has been loyal all this time. I know people like to, if he just does decide to leave, they're going to go, this guy, you leaving the franchise. But I think because he's giving them a title, you can't really ask him for much more. I'd love to see Giannis go somewhere else, because he's really given his organization a lot. And to be fair, they gave him a lot too. They helped develop him from when he was a scrawny rookie. But, the small market, you got your championship. Let him go win some rings with another superstar somewhere else. So I would love to see him get out of Milwaukee.
Yeah, I agree. Come home, New York, baby. Come home. We will accept you with open arms. I didn't check Giannis's contract, and I believe he has a player option in about 2 years. So this means that, one, I don't think the Knicks have the best trade package. So I think I forfeited that option there. I really want to see. My hope for this is that Milwaukee finds the best possible trade package, sends him to somewhere that ultimately does not work out for Giannis, and hopefully he looks at New York as a destination of free agency. And I know that can sound like delusion, but there are reports saying that he does have business ventures in Brooklyn. So you're already making money. You're already making money here, man. Come on. The Garden will love you. New York would love Giannis, man.
Yeah.
New York would literally love Giannis, accepting with open arms, and getting that Julius Randle hot and cold treatment. He'll be, if we love Brunson the way we love Brunson now, only imagine how much of a legend Giannis will be in this city, man. So New York loves its icons. Giannis, hope to see him in a Knick uniform in the near future. But I don't know if that'll of course. Cool. Okay. So, and it's funny we talked about this. We didn't really talk about the Pacers. I guess we'll talk about them briefly when we discuss this Cavs-Pacers series that is coming up. But last two series of the Eastern Conference, we have the Knicks and the Pistons first. Man, my New York Knicks, man. I expected this series to go to 5 and went to 6. I'm not mad at it. It was really a dogfight. Seeing the way the Pistons were just playing very physical defense and really were balling. Cade Cunningham had his kind of coming out party, and he really did show out. So it was nice to see him hooping. But in the end, Clutch player of the year, man. Jalen Brunson was the star of the show. He had that crazy game winner in game 6, which I thought was wild. Love seeing a clutch moment like that. I think we're going to be watching that clip or seeing that clip a lot in the future. So props to the Knicks, man. I'm not mad at them. I expected to be angrier with them at this point already, but I'm not mad at them just yet. So looks like they advanced. They have the Celtics next series, so very interesting times indeed. So any thoughts on that series?
Yeah, not much. We kind of joked around saying I thought the Pistons would win, but realistically, I always thought the Knicks would win. And happy for you. And I'm curious to see exactly how far they go. I didn't have them beating the Celtics. I know we'll talk about that, but this team, there's something about them. There's a lot of energy. I think having that New York fan base. I think because the Knicks have been so sorry for so long that people forget just how rabid that Knicks fan base can be. Even though they were always there, I think when people talk about like these massive fan bases that really, or like people say the 12th man in football, or whatever, like that, people don't think of the Knicks that way. I think in recent times because the team has just been so bad over the last however many years, but even playoffs in the previous couple years, you've seen that Knicks fan base show out. And now that they're actually going to be in a series like the one with Boston, I think seeing that Knicks fan base up against, let's say, that Boston fan base where people gas all the time, which it is, Boston does have their rabid, questionable in some ways as well, fan base. But I think that Knicks fan base is really going to show out, so I'm excited to see that.
100%. It's Boston, man, so you know they have reason to. But yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. But lastly, Boston Magic. I mean, I don't really have much to say there. Celtics are a very deep team, and I expected them to sweep the Magic, but they did it in 5 games, so no shame in that at all. So yeah, any thoughts on that?
Nothing. Celtics are boring, man.